Let's start from Sheni. It started Sheni. Parashas Kisiso, Lamed Aleph Yudches. Vayitein al Moshe, Yechaloso ledaber ito bar Sinai. And it was given to Moshe when Hashem completed speaking with him, Shnei luchos edus, 2 tablets of testament, luchos even, they were made of stone, ksuvim be'etzva lokim. They were written with the finger of Hashem. So Hashem, after Moshe had learned the whole Torah's entirety from Hashem, God gives him the Shnei Luchos to give to the Jews. At this point, it didn't happen yet. You understand? At this point, when Moshe was the representative of Klal Yisrael, when he received it on behalf of the Jewish people. So this itself was the marriage, the consummation of the marriage contract when the Jews said Nasiv and Nishma. So therefore, it's, as I said, why did Moshe break the tablets? Why did he break the Luchos? So the Gemara tells us, when he broke the Luchos, he did not consult with Hashem. But Hashem says to Moshe, uses the words that we'll see, Asher Shibarto. The tablets, Asher Shibarto. The word Asher alludes to the words, Yasher Koach Shibarto. I want to give you a great thank you that you broke the tablets. Why? Because if you wouldn't have broken the tablets, I would have destroyed the Jewish people. Because the breaking of the Luchos was an annulment of the equivalent of the marriage between Hashem and Klal Yisrael. Therefore, it would have been considered committing adultery under the chuppah. But because you broke the tablets, the relationship was annulled. Therefore, there's liability, but it's correctable. With sufficient rachmim, if you supplicate, they'll be forgiven. Although the relationship will not be the same. It's going to be an arm's length relationship. But they became corrupted after Moshe already received the Luchos. Because now the Torah tells the story, when they realized Moshe seems to have been delayed and he's not coming back when he said he would come back, it was due to a miscalculation of time, a misunderstanding. That's when they began with the Egel. But the Egel happened after the Luchos were already received by Moshe Rabbeinu in heaven. Okay? Now Hashem says, go down because your people have become corrupted. So therefore it was essential, and Hashem wanted that Moshe Rabbeinu should break those Luchos. Because he knew when he would see what's going on, he would break the Luchos. It's very interesting. We're going to see in a moment. When he broke the Luchos, it says he broke the Luchos Betachtes Ohor, at the foot of the mountain. It should say when he saw it, he broke the Luchos. What does there have to tell us the location where he broke the Luchos? Now, when we said Nasav and Nishma, it says the Jews themselves were Betachtes Ohor. Either Betachtes Ohor means the foot of the mountain or we're under the mountain. Okay? Meaning, we said Nasav and Nishma at the base of the mountain. Where did Moshe break the Luchos? At the exact same location where that relationship actually was finalized. Where it crystallized, we said Nasav and Nishma. To indicate that the breaking of the Luchos is an undoing, is an annulment of that original relationship. That's where the Torah goes out of its way to say, when he broke the Luchos, it was Betachtes Ohor, as when they said Nasav and Nishma, when they accepted the Torah, it was Betachtes Ohor. And when Hashem originally spoke to them, it was Betachtes Ohor, it was at the foot of the mountain. Just want to see Rashi over here. And it's important, because somebody mentioned Yudches. Vayitein al Moshe. Torah. There's no sequential order necessarily in the Torah, meaning certain events that were stated earlier should have been later, And what's stated later actually happened before. Masa egel kodem letzivim lechsa mishkan yomim rabim hoyo. The incident with the egel had preceded the commandment to build the Mishkan many days earlier. Sharibiyu designed by Tammuz the Shtaber Luchos. The 17th of Tammuz, that's when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchos. Ubiyom Kippurim Nisratz HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. And when were the Jews finally forgiven? And we were reinstated with the second set of Luchos, that was Yom Kippur, which is Yud Tishrei, the 10th of Tishrei. So from the 17th of Tammuz, you have Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei. So it was quite a bit of time before the commandment to build a Mishkan actually happened. So, but the way the Torah, the way the narrative reads, the Egel, the building of Mishkan preceded the Egel, the story of the golden calf. Okay, so it's clear a mukdam mucha Torah. Rashi's stating here, it's a midrash. Now it says, "Vayiter el Moshe kechaloso l'daber ito." When Hashem concluded speaking to him, He gave them the luchos. So the word kechaloso, there should be a vav between the lamed and the tov. The vav is deleted. Kechaloso ksiv. Without the vowels, it could be read as His bride. He gave them the luchos as His bride. Shenibsor Torah b'matona kekalo l'choson. It was given. The Torah was given as a gift, like a kala to a choson. I mean, Moshe 40 days learned the Torah in entirety, which humanly is an impossibility. The answer is the transmission of Torah, which Hashem had given Moshe, was a gift, because humanly it was impossible. It's like a person has a fortune in value, in worth, and if you live 25 lifetimes, you couldn't earn that kind of money. Impossible. So the person said, where did you get it from? Well, my father had that degree of wealth, and he transferred into my domain. The Torah in its entirety, humanly, it's impossible to fathom and comprehend and to absorb all that information. So let's say Moshe would have been there 5 years. They'd say maybe 5 years he could have. But in 40 days, there's not even the question. Impossible. So that it was given within the 40-day period definitely, irrefutably means it definitely was a gift. And therefore the Torah says kaloso, the words are spelt as kaloso, like a gift between a bride and a groom. That's how the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael. But factually, he had to be there 40 days and 40 nights. If it's a miracle and it's a gift, why not in a day? Should have ascended for 24 hours and studied the Torah. And the transmission is miraculous. Within 24 hours, he was able to contain and understand the Torah's entirety. But it was a 40-day process. So we always discuss this. What does 40 always connote? From conception to life is how many days? It's 40 days. We spent 40 years in the desert. From the time we entered the desert until we left, due to the Chet and Meraglim. The process of evolving into an entity of value, which is the equivalent of life, is 40 days. It rained 40 days and 40 nights at the time of the Great Flood, correct? So that there's no question. So over there, Rashi says, why did it rain 40 days and 40 nights? And the water which surged up besides the rain, it was hot water. Why? Because they themselves violated the area of what? Of adultery and incest and bestiality. So because they were matriach, Hashem to create illegitimate issue between man and woman and the wasting of seed. Therefore, what is just as conception is a 40-day process, the rain came down hot to punish them for the act, which was an illegitimate act, which brought life into existence during that 40-day period. But factually, we see that it says Noach, when he saw the peaks of the mountains, he opened up the window and he sent out the Orev, the raven. But he waited 40 days before he sent out the raven. It was only 40 days after he had seen the peaks of the mountains that he sent out the raven. Why did he wait 40 days? Because before 40 days, there wasn't even a consideration, a chance that the world had returned to a livable situation. So therefore, again, he waited 40 days, and only after 40 days did he send out the raven. 40 days is the period of time in creation when it borders on the ex nihilo, from nothing to something, to take on a permanent reality. Therefore, Moshe was in heaven 40 days and 40 nights, receiving the transmission, the process of receiving the Torah to be a reality. Only after 40 days did it become a reality. The Midrash tells us, and this we've said in the past, that Hashem taught Moshe Rabbeinu the Torah's entirety the first day. After the first day, he forgot whatever he was taught. And this process repeated itself 40 times. Every day he taught Moshe the Torah's entirety. So it was. Miraculously, Moshe was able to receive the Torah's entirety every single day, 40 days, repeating itself. Finally, on the 40th day, he was able to retain it. So the question we asked was, in the past, the whole thing is a miracle. And if Hashem wanted him to retain it the first day, as he taught it to him, he would have retained it. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to go through this process 40 times, and only after the 40th time was he able to retain the Torah? What exactly is the communication here? What is the takeaway, the message? We said many times, to be able to come upon the truth of Torah, one needs divine intervention. It's a divine endowment. And you have to meet certain criteria. And if you meet those criteria, the prerequisites, then you come upon the truth of Torah. Therefore, that's what Hashem was teaching Moshe. Regardless of your level of genius, to be able to come upon the truth of Torah, one has to merit what we say, siyata d'shmaya. The Gemara tells us in Megillah, which we mentioned in the past, when it comes to Torah, yogata motzosa tamim. If a person tells you that he toiled the Torah, he came upon its truth, you believe that person. If he tells you, lo yogati motzosi, I did not toil, I came upon its truth, you don't believe that person. He may believe he came upon its truth, but he didn't come upon its truth. And if a person says, I toiled, I did not come upon its truth, you don't believe that person either. Why? Because if you would have toiled sufficiently, you would have come upon its truth. Meaning, Torah itself is not just the mind, the brain, is to process physical information. Torah, which is beyond, which is infinite, which is directly connecting with the source of all existence, with God himself, for that you need his intervention. It has to be an endowment from him. And unless you meet the prerequisites to be the repository for that Torah, one does not come upon its truth. So that's the 40-day process. Every day he learned the Torah's entirety, but it's kikalos, it was like a gift. But this gift, and you find very often in the Gemara, we had recently, in the Daf Yomi, that a person wasn't aware of something, and it says he studied it from him for 40 times, reviewed it 40 times, and then he had it fully in his domain. But it says he reviewed it 40 times. Why 40 times? Because just at Sinai, the 40-day process is the process to be able to retain something. Therefore, he reviewed the same information 40 times, and only after 40 times was he able to what? To retain it. Just tell you of a very beautiful story. Reb Baruch Ber Leibowitz, who was known as the Kamitzer Rosh Yeshiva, who was the closest student of Reb Chaim Brisker. He had a yeshiva, and he was a person who toiled tremendously in Torah. And he said, when he gave his Talmud lectures to his students who were exceptional students, and many of the future Gedolim or advanced Torah sages who were graduates of his yeshiva, always attributed that he was able to come on to the truth of Torah was due to his toil. It wasn't because he had such a genius mind. And one day he sang a shir, and a profound shir, and one of the students asked a question, And it seems that question refuted everything he had said. Everything. And okay, so what would a person normally do? Close the Gemara, walk off. He made a mistake. People are not infallible. There's human error. And he thinks for a moment, and in a moment he gives an answer which revealed his level of genius. They were taken aback. To be able to, within a moment, to respond with that level of insight, it was the first time Baruch Ber revealed his genius. Okay? So they're talking about Baruch Ber. It's not only due to his toil, he has a genius mind. And therefore, that was one of the reasons why he was able to be Reb Chaim Brisker's closest student. The next day, Baruch Ber goes over to that same student who asked the question, and he repeats the answer verbatim, the answer he had given him on the spot during the shiur. And after he listens respectfully to the Rosh Hashiva, and after he finishes explaining to him, he says to him, Rebbe, that's the exact answer you gave me yesterday. What you're telling me today, what are you adding to what you said yesterday? That's the question the student asked Baruch Ber, asked this Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Leibowitz. So he says, I want to explain it to you. Yesterday, when I responded on the spur of the moment. It was due to my genius. I did not toil to bring about that understanding and that insight in the Torah. That's not where it came. Last night, I stayed up all night going through the subject matter, and I toiled. What I'm telling you now is a result of my toil, not due to my genius. It's a different level of Torah, because that takes on permanence. 40 days is always, I'm just saying the concept. Toil gives it meaning, gives it reality. Therefore, what I told you yesterday, this is a different reality, and therefore the value and the impact and the impression is a different level of impression.